You know, my poor wife, she puts up with quite a bit. When I built a brand new house for my family, I said, you know, honey, I want to use this European stacking washer and dryer set. I know they're smaller, but you know, it's the efficiency that I really want. Now, this is the washer down here, and this is the dryer. And the reason why I wanted to use these is because this is a condensing dryer, meaning this is kind of like a big dehumidifier in a box. There's no output air to the outside. When I was doing my research on dryers, I realized, you know, dryers run between 150 and some of them output 200 CFM of air when they're running. So I thought, you know, if I'm going to build a really good, tight house, maybe that dryer wouldn't be able to push out 200 CFM of air. Plus, I didn't want to depressurize the house, right? If I'm sucking out 200 CFM, I'm going to have to make up 200 CFM somewhere. And your ERV does not do that. The ERV is a balanced system. It's not intended to work at all in terms of makeup air. So I said, honey, let's get this European model. And by the way, have you noticed I put 3 towels in this so far? And when I put my 4th towel in, it's basically stuffed. I mean, look at that door. I'm not even sure I really should stuff that much in here. It probably can only take 3 towels. So here we are, I'm building the house. I say, we're gonna do this. You can tell I basically built this in. There's no way a full-size unit's gonna fit in here. So we move in and it's like week 1. And right away, my family's like, Dad, this, honey, you're right, this is way too small. I mean, we're doing laundry all the time. I got 4 kids and a dog. Only 3 towels fit in this before it's stuffed. On the plus side, though, it's about the same cycle time. This takes maybe an hour and 10 minutes to wash, and this takes about 45, 50 minutes to dry. So it takes about 2 hours in total. But literally, we're doing twice as much laundry as my old house, where I had standard American front loaders. With that being said, on the build show today, I'm going to show you a solution to this, and what I think is frankly the future of laundry equipment in America. And lastly, we're going to actually jump in. Believe it or not, I finally figured out how much, when you're using a standard dryer, how much money that dryer costs you by dumping all that conditioned air outside and having to make up that air around your cracks and crevices. In the build show today, the future of laundry. Let's get going. Okay, so fast forward about 2 years of living here. My unit downstairs turns out to be a major source of tension in my marriage because of all the loads of laundry. Now, full disclosure, Miele, fabulous company, great people. I actually have no problem with the unit. It's been rock solid, reliable. It actually washes and dries really well. But the big issue with that unit is size. Now, I had a second Miele pair up here. You can see I've got the shelf right here, was built in. And when I went to the builder show this year, I saw that GE came out with this brand new unit about a year ago now. And when I saw the size of the show, I was like, what? This is an all-in-one heat pump model? It's a condensing dryer, no vent to the outside? I was absolutely floored by the size, and I immediately ordered one. So here's the deal though. Compared to my unit downstairs, remember when I was putting towels in down there, I got to the 4th towel and I was overstuffed? There's 3 towels. There's 4 towels. So basically the same size as downstairs, and the unit looks like it's got only a third of its capacity at this point. Now, so that's 5 and 6 towels. There we go. Every member of the family, let's say, takes a shower for a week, and look at that drum. At this point now, we're nowhere near overstuffed. This is a perfect size load, and I could run this in actually a little bit less time combined than the unit downstairs. Plus, I don't need to switch the load. Right downstairs, separate washer, separate dryer. This goes right from wash to all of a sudden in dry mode. There's one other benefit though besides size. Because this goes from washing to drying, this inside space is being dried by the dryer mode. So there's not that weirdo smell. I don't have to worry about propping the door open like I do on the unit downstairs. I like this. I think this is the future of laundry for American homes. But I have had this nagging question that I really want to answer for you guys that frankly I've asked a bunch of people to try and calculate for me, and I haven't been able to find an answer until recently. And check it out, ChatGPT coming through for me. So here's what I want to do. I want to pull up my ChatGPT app, and I want to type in this process of trying to figure out if this was a standard dryer blowing out air out of the house, how much does that really cost on an annual basis to run compared to this unit? I think there's going to be some pretty interesting answers. So first off, I typed into ChatGPT, how many CFMs does a typical dryer use? And Chat says, okay, between 100 and 200 CFMs. But for the most part, if it's a bigger size dryer, a full size front loader, let's say, most of those are about 200 CFM. Okay, now let's use that data and say, if I live in Austin, Texas, and have a family of 6, and I use a 200 CFM dryer, how much energy will that unit use over the course of a year by air leaking back into the house to make up for the 200 CFM leaving? And let's see what ChatGPT says. Okay, so first off, it's going to take the assumptions of running about an hour a day. That makes sense, right? We're going to run a load a day roughly, or 3-4 loads a week. Check this out, 12,000 cubic feet per hour when that standard dryer is running compared to this one that doesn't blow anything out of the house. Typical house volume, okay, I actually live in a slightly bigger house. I have a 2,700 square foot house, but these assumptions are still good. Now this is where the data gets really interesting. Heating and cooling needs. It's calculating based on Austin's climate how much cooling and how much heating is needed over the course of the year. And of course, we need more cooling. And it's calculating how many BTUs per ton, or pardon me, BTUs per cubic foot per degree of temperature difference. This so far seems real accurate. It's figuring out what the average outdoor temperature is in the cooling and in the heating season. With this efficiency on my system, 90% efficiency, multiplied by the air volume, check that out, 4.3 million cubic feet over the course of a year. And check it out, it's doing that in heating season and in cooling season. And look at these numbers, 1,500 kilowatt hours per year. That's just in making up the air that's coming back in on the 200 CFM. That has nothing to do with the use of the unit itself. That's frankly just making it up. So in Austin, Texas, by pushing out 200 CFM and only using this machine, your dryer, let's say 1 hour a day, that's $215 a year to make up in heating and cooling costs. How about that? That's amazing. Now, what if we redo this same scenario, though, in a cold climate? Austin's pretty hot and humid. I wonder if it would make a difference if we, say, entered in Minnesota or something like that. Okay, let's type this into ChatGPT now. What about this same scenario if I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota? Let's see what the output is here, because this is now going to change the energy impact based on that air leaking back in, because it's not hot Austin air. Now it's cold most of the time Minnesota air. I mean, if I look at these calculations, this looks spot on to me. Not as high on the cooling season, but much higher on the heating season. Look, I need 6 million BTUs to make up for that air that I shoved out of the house by my dryer and now is making up. So now in Minnesota, we're talking about $300 a year is what that loss of air and that makeup is going to cost us. Isn't that wild? Now I've got one more thing that I think would be fascinating to find out on this. Because these units are heat pumps, they're quite a bit more efficient. So let's try one more thing for ChatGPT. Compare the energy usage of a standard electric front loader washer and electric dryer compared to the GE Profile heat pump ventless combo laundry unit on an annual basis. Now let's see what Chat has to say about that. So if we compare that, it's going to say it looks like a standard unit, 547 kilowatt hours for the standard electric washer and dryer. This all-in-one unit uses ventless heat pump technology, enhancing energy efficiency. And according to GE, it consumes 136 kilowatt hours annually. Okay, so here's the output that's most interesting. Cost implications. Standard electric units, $150 annually to run. This GE unit, $17.68. Now the energy guide says $19, but ChatGPT is within $2. I'll take that. That's pretty amazing. So if we compare the $200 and some in Austin, Texas, that I'm saving by heating and cooling costs by shoving that air out with a standard vented dryer, plus the efficiency difference. So what is that? 150 minus 20, so let's call it $130 plus the $200. This unit in Austin, Texas is over $300 on energy costs less to run per year. And if we factor in Minnesota, which was $300 a year on heating and cooling costs, and this unit, which is $130 less, we're talking about almost $450 annually if you live in Minnesota to own one of these compared to a standard venting unit. That is fascinating. How about that? I think that really makes the case for me that if you're going to build a well-built new home with an airtight envelope that's meeting modern efficiency standards, these are a no-brainer. Now, I've had this unit for, gosh, how many months now? About 7 or 8 months. I don't know how many loads I've done. I've done a lot of loads. But check this out. It does a really good job of capturing that lint. I will tell you one thing, though, that you do need to buy an accessory to get in there and clean the fin coils. If I use my flashlight and kind of look in there, you'll see that that fin coil does get dirty. And about every 3 months, I get out my brush and my vacuum attachment. Okay, so this was the lint that was on the lint filter that we're gonna clean after every load, and that just shoves back in. But if I were to look in here with my flashlight, you'll notice that there is some lint that kind of captures in the system, but the coil itself stays pretty clean. So about every 3 months, what I do is I use this brush and this brush. This one is meant to clean the fins on the inside, and we just kind of rotate it, fluff everything off the fins. And then this one, you kind of put an S shape on it, and this kind of grabs all the lint out. And then lastly, I attach this to my Dyson and suck everything out, and we're basically as good as clean again. Now, I did have a conversation with the GE engineers a couple months ago, and they said that that fin, even though it gets dirty, that's okay. It's going to continue to operate. It's just going to drop slightly in efficiency. But being the nerd I am, I'm basically on a 3-month schedule where about every 3 months I got a calendar reminder. I do a quick clean out. It takes me 10 minutes or less, and now I've got basically a brand new machine. Now, I've seen some chatter on the internet, and I've watched some videos about this unit. There's a bunch of people who are like, oh, you can never get all the lint out. That's kind of true. There is a little bit of lint still stuck in there after you've done a deep clean. Is it that big a deal? No. And again, after talking to those engineers, they were like, yeah, that's gonna happen, that's normal. It's okay if there's a little bit of lint in there. On the other hand, the Miele unit that I've got downstairs, it's a little harder to clean. I do wonder if that unit is gonna get junked up over time, and 10 years from now, we're gonna have to totally take the whole unit apart and take care of it. In the meantime, though, I must say it is a blessing having an upstairs and a downstairs unit. In the future, I might consider going to 2 of these units side by side. And lastly, when it comes to cost, I wanna mention, this unit only uses a 110 plug. So compared to running, let's say, a gas line or a 220 line with a 220 breaker that a standard front loader combo would take, this is way less expensive. If you talk to your electrician, what's it cost to run a 220 line to that upstairs laundry compared to just running a standard dedicated 110 line? That's a significant amount of savings. Plus those gas lines, every time you put a gas drop in a house, that adds up too. So by having a 110 plug and this thing taking up just a small footprint of space, I'm real impressed. Now, full disclosure, there are several other manufacturers now. In fact, I've got an LG on order for another project that has this same heat pump technology. So I'm curious to see what other people are doing. But if you're a manufacturer watching this is a big deal. This GE is leading the pack as far as I can tell when it comes to efficiency and a unit that's really made for an American family. I really like it. I think the Europeans need to figure out size so they can enter this market, because they've been making condensing washers and dryers, I should say, for decades now in Europe and Asia and these places. But again, there are all these small under-counter units like the Miele that I've got downstairs. They work fabulous, but when you've got a big American family like I do, not a great choice. With that being said, guys, I'm curious to know what you think. Comment below. Did I get the math right? Did ChatGPT get it right? Why is no one talking about this issue of the air leaving the house from a standard dryer? I think it's a really big deal. And if you're building a new house, I think you should consider plumbing, going for your laundry with these types of units, because this is the future. They're going to make these indefinitely. At some point, standard units are going to become obsolete. This is way more efficient. It's literally hundreds of dollars a year in savings. Guys, if you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content here every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.